I was in New York City pulling on doors, cold calling and telemarketing people, which is for the most part a miserable existence when you think about it. Like you're walking out of the office and you dial 300 people and two people said yes. 298 people didn't want to have anything to do with you and they hang up on you and they hate you, right?
You talked about knocking on doors, you talked about calling 300 people to accepting you. Your experience in New York sounds very similar to my dating experience in New York. But I'm wondering, hello, hello. How are you?
I am doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. I say good morning to you, partially due to my Southern upbringing. It's a formality from my mother, but I say good morning to you because it's become a joke at Entrepreneurial.com. I say good morning to all my guests, but I never actually know where they are or what time it is wherever they are. So where are you currently and what time is it right now?
I am in New Jersey. Good morning back to you, by the way. It's 4:36 p.m. It's the afternoon. Yeah. But
Oh
I
yeah,
know it's morning someplace else.
yeah. Good morning. A common New Jersey greeting. I don't know if there is a common New Jersey greeting where anyone is being polite. So I take that kindly. I appreciate the good morning back. You might be the only New Jerseyer that just doesn't flip me off in response to me saying good morning. So thank you. But for the purposes of our listeners, tell us your name and a little bit about the work you do.
Yeah, my name is Oz Konar. I'm the founder of a company called Business Lending Blueprint. So my background is in the financial services and the alternative lending space. And what we do currently is we're helping ambitious people become business loan broker. That's an ever-growing field. Like more and more people are dissatisfied with the funding options that are offered through traditional banks, your big banks, right? They're looking for other ways to get more creative ways to fund their passion, whether it's a small business or a large business. And as a network at Business Lending Blueprint, we train our brokers how to be the person who can help these people get the funding that they need. And we've been around since 2008 and helped thousands of people get rid of their 9 to 5, whether they want to start a business on the side or they want to fully quit and run a full-time financing operation. It's my passion to kind of watch people transition, because I know for most people the talk is, hey, you got to quit in your 9 to 5, but it's actually not that easy. You need systems and structure so you can match your current income and surpass it and get rid of the job, which is exactly what I had to go through myself. So that's what we do on a day-to-day basis, helping our community grow and put funding options in front of them so they can help millions of businesses out there get qualified for additional capital.
Oh, I love it. So I want to get into your background, but talk to me first about the people you look for that you'd want to bring into this business. What sort of educational knowledge, awareness, what would you want them to have as an ideal candidate?
That's a great question. That's something that we talk quite a bit, like who is a good fit. And we used to qualify people based on like what they had done in the past, but has changed over the years since we dealt with more and more people. I noticed that the people who are the most successful in I guess in any business, especially ours, is people who are coachable, right? So someone who thinks that they know everything, they usually do not really fare well in any industry, right? So we're looking for ambitious people who want to become entrepreneurs and they believe in the entrepreneurial dream. They're just looking for the right vehicle to do, right? Because in this day and age, you can do a couple of things. You can do crypto, you can sell insurance, you can become a salesperson, you can do stock market investing, you can do real estate investing, or you can start a business where you solve the biggest problem for people, which is money, right? If you wanted to sell one product, I can't think of anything sexier than money. So what we're looking for are people, regardless of their professional experience, their background, their education, and all of that. What matters at the end, their age, gender doesn't really matter, how passionate they are about helping other people, and understand that the most profitable business is the business that you're closest to the money, which is the financial services industry. Because when you think like, for example, an e-commerce business, right? You're looking for the right product so you can get to money. With us, there's no product, it's money. Like you help someone get access to capital and you get paid in proportion to the help that you provide. So we're always looking for those people. And we have people from all walks of lives. Like we have single moms with 3 jobs and they're trying to transition away from that, which is obviously very painful. Like when you have to take care of kids and you have jobs. We have people who are approaching retirement and all of a sudden they find out, holy cow, I don't have a nest egg and I don't know how to do that. And I need to expedite that process to like 5 years instead of the 40 years that I had before, right? Or we have people who are in a dead end job and they notice that this is not working well. Or people who have like brick and mortar businesses and they notice that it will never scale. Like some businesses do, but a lot of them it's very challenging to scale. Those are the people that we deal with. Again, it's not the demographics and their background. It's more like what they're trying to accomplish and are they coachable and are they willing to put in the hard work through the right vehicle? That makes sense.
No, that's perfect. I guess talk me through that process then, because I know a lot of listeners will be interested, especially when you talk about, hey, there's potential to earn. What does that look like? Somebody comes on board, maybe they have a background in the financial service industry, maybe they have no idea what our SBA is. What does that look like from start to finish to get them up and running?
Yeah, great question. So this industry was born through recession back in 2008, in the Great Recession, right? So the banks literally stopped funding small businesses, and that gave birth to an industry called alternative lending. So when you think about small businesses, there are about 34 million of them in the United States, and thousands of them are being formed every single day. And the number one problem they have, based on a survey, they said 76% of them told that if there was an opportunity to get money, like access to capital, lines of credit, and loans and whatnot, they would take it. The problem is when the economy goes down, the banks restrict their funding criteria even more, right? So, for example, there's no startup funding through a bank. But most people have these dreams and they don't necessarily need millions of dollars. Maybe they need like 100,000, maybe 500,000, maybe 20,000 to start their business, right? So this industry has grown tremendously. It was an industry that was funding around 100 million. Now it's like a $2 trillion industry. The beauty of this is that you're not a part of the bank. You don't need to be licensed. You're not dealing with SEC. You are becoming a business loan broker, the middle person that connects the lenders with the client. The way it works is a highly transactional industry. So each deal makes a lot of money, right? So let's say you have a job right now that pays you on the higher end $100,000. So after the taxes, that comes out to be like $7,000 a month or so, right? Depending on where you live and all that stuff. So that's like 3 deals per month for us, right? Because each deal pays anywhere from $2,000 to $7,000. So you're not dealing with signing up hundreds of people to your community. You're not selling like teddy bears, like 100 of them to make $1 profit each one of them. You're solving big problems for people. Like when you help someone get $100,000, you're potentially making anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000. What we do, we show people, we increase the awareness of the industry. So many people do not even know that alternative lending exists. So we train them on that. Then at that point, they have two decisions. Either they go ahead and build it on their own. They need to have access to the lender network and they need to understand the products, or we give them the blueprint itself, where we have access to the lenders, where we train people on different funding options. We train them on how to build this business. We give them their website, the branding, what to say it, how to build this in the first 90 days. So that's the industry itself, and that's our role in growing this industry.
Okay. Well, how are most people finding you? Or on the flip side, I guess, how are you finding most people that are needing funding?
Well, people who are needing funding are out there already. It's in very high demand. Unlike many other industries, there's no way that we can saturate the market. There are tens of thousands of people are looking for funding. The problem area is that 86% of the small business loan applications through the banks are declined.
Wow.
If you walk into a branch and you need $20,000 and they've been using that same branch and you have your business checking account with them, you've been loyally depositing your money into that, and you need $25,000, the average process takes up to 6 weeks, and 86% of the time it's a decline. If it is not decline, most of the times you're getting a lot less than what you want. So in alternative lending industry, the approval process is 2 to 5 days, and we don't need any collateral. That's why it becomes really, really attractive. The challenge is businesses do not know their options, right? So if I were to do an interview and talk to 100 businesses and ask them how they would get access to capital, probably 95 of them would say, I would go to my bank and find out what happens. That's where the problem occurs, right? So we train our members to how they can inform this massive, ever-growing population on their funding options, just for a chance to check it out. Like, let's see what we can put on the table. You don't have to take it. There's no obligation. You're not paying up front. It's just like, let's check it out. How I reach people is usually through my YouTube channel, right? So one day, I'm from the industry. So I used to fund these loans and I used to work with the business owners. And I wanted to transform the alternative lending industry because there were a lot of things that were inefficient. Like the way people were reaching out to the end customer was through telemarketing and cold calling. And I was a part of that too. I was calling 300 people a day just to make 2 appointments. I said, well, this is kind of stupid. Like, we're in this day and age that there's a lot that we can do with marketing. Then I started doing email marketing and paid advertising. And there were a lot more people who wanted to replicate it, because by myself, there's no way I can supply the demand, right? We need more people to handle that. So we built the first, and at this point, the most advanced marketing system where you join our community. We give you a fully built system where you can get in front of businesses. And there are more than 15 different lending options. So within, like, think about niching down in a niche industry that not many people knows about. Within the niche, you have so many financial resources and tools in your arsenal from helping someone build their credit, the credit card processing, to getting them the tax credit that they qualify but they don't know about, and also the government-backed loans, like you said, the working capital or SBA, and all the other options. They learn about this in a relatively short amount of time and take advantage of our lending partners, and they do the heavy lifting, collect the documentation, and fund the deal, and the broker gets paid in a relatively short amount of time. Because as you might know, in lending and investing, the time that someone gets paid, it can take forever, because some of these deals, like think about a mortgage, right? So each real estate deal can take up to 3 months. And that's why we have a lot of like mortgage brokers and insurance people in our community, because they understand the financial services industry. But the vehicle they have, it's just, especially right now, the interest rates are high, mortgage people are suffering, real estate sales drop, and all of that. Well, these people already have the built-in skill set that would make them a success in the lending industry. They just didn't know this industry existed. That's where we come in and help people out.
Oh, I love that. Well, we have a lot of listeners that are always looking for funding for their business to help them scale. Let's talk about your YouTube channel. How can people reach you? What should people have prepared before they reach out to you?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel, if they type in Oz Konar, my first name and last name, that would pop up. We have a very focused YouTube channel on the results that we get for our brokers, and also training the small business community on how they can be prepared for funding, right? For example, I don't want to get too bogged down on the underwriting process, but when you walk into a branch, the only potential way that you're going to get a fast approval is if you show some level of a collateral, your house, a car, or something like that. Well, that's the exact problem. We're not talking about mid-sized to large-sized businesses. People who need the money are small businesses, the deli, the bagel shop. If they had collateral, they probably wouldn't have had problem with the money in the first place. So they're not looking for, again, 5 million, 10 million, $20 million. They're looking to buy maybe a new fridge. Maybe they're looking to buy out their competition. Like restaurants need money to advertise, print out flyers and all of that. So they need that capital and they need it fast, right? So that's why as a business, our loan brokers are looking for someone who can provide like 5 months of their bank statements so we can see the money coming in. So based on that, that's honestly all we need. So we send it to our lending team. They take a look at it. They put an offer on the table saying that, hey, these are the offers. Some of them has a very low interest rate. Some of them are very high interest rate based on the situation that they're in. But the business has the option to choose from, unlike a bank that you're just waiting blindly without even knowing, like, is this happening or not? And small businesses, unlike larger businesses, do not have the luxury to wait 6 weeks. If your fridge is freaking broken, you need to buy a new fridge. You can't just wait for the Wells Fargo to send you a letter telling you that you're declined and you're 4 weeks into it and you have guests coming this Saturday to a restaurant. So those are like mission critical problems that businesses have. And there's no known solution to that through the traditional banking system besides alternative lending.
Well, for small business owners then, outside of the bank statements, what are 2 or 3 things you would have them focus on to be prepared for this process?
Well, they need to know what their credit score is. So we have our lenders approve people regardless of the credit score, but it affects the rate that you receive, how much you're going to pay back, because it's a measuring mechanism for the trustworthiness in you, right? So if someone is like a 500 credit score, that doesn't mean that they're bad people. It's just on the bank's eyes, they might be less likely to pay it back on time and all that stuff, right? Versus someone who has 700 credit score. So if you're looking to get funding, 2 things. If you're in a position to get your credit fixed, do that. If you're not, there's a lot going on. Find a co-signer who can co-sign with you and make an internal agreement with them that you own the debt, but they're just co-signing to get that. We also have startup options, right? Startup options, like meaning you don't have the business yet. We call it pre-revenue. You don't have the logo, you don't have the website. You had this great idea and all you need is like $100,000, for example. That startup option is solely based on the credit score. So we have a lot of people who don't have the ideal credit for that. But for example, they have a spouse, wife, mother, father who can just sign off on that, saying that I want my son to get access to this credit, and we can make that happen up to $150,000. And then it's not like tomorrow you're paying it back. These payments sometimes are like 24 months out, 36 months out, right? Really flexible. So if you have a great business idea that you know that it's going to cash flow in the next 6 months to a year, why not do that? Otherwise, not doing it at all.
Do you have sort of a lens that you look through when people begin to apply, where you immediately think, okay, this person will have more trouble, this person will not?
The biggest thing is the documentation that they have, right? So some small businesses, for example, do not have a business checking account. They're operating out of their personal account. That's a major, major red flag, right? So you might have a solid business. Maybe you're doing like, I don't know, 20, 50, $100,000 a month, But if your finances are through your personal account, I can say with confidence that no one will want to fund you. It's got to be a business account, right? So we need to know that. So again, that's a percentage of the businesses out there. So if you're running your business through that, one thing you should do immediately is open up a business checking account. So even if the lenders see that, oh, yeah, he was operating out of a personal checking account, but last month he converted everything to business checking account, that becomes a factor in the approval process. But if you send us statements from your personal PNC with your other personal expenses in there, I can tell you you're going to have a hard time. Although you have a legitimate business and it's running, and whether it's an e-commerce business or an actual brick and mortar business, that's the number one thing that I suggest people to avoid, which is an easy fix. You just go ahead and open a free checking account, simple as that, and direct all the funds into that. The second thing is, if your business, it's a type of business that collects a lot of cash payments, that could be a problem too, because as you know, cash is hard to track. You don't know where it's coming from. Always have invoices, so you can track it. If underwriter asks you a question as to, hey, man, you deposited $20,000. It's just one lump sum. Can I see where it came from? You need to have documentation. Again, the approval process is super fast, sometimes as low as like in 24 hours. That's on the underwriting end. But for the business loan brokers who want to make money by helping these people get access to funding, the beauty is you're putting these potential customers who need funding, and there are a lot of them, into our system, and our lenders are doing the heavy lifting. They're reaching out to the client, they're educating the client on what they need to submit, they're providing the link to the portal, so there's no sensitive documentation changing hands. Pretty much they can literally upload all the secure documentation. They can even connect their bank account, and the system automatically seamlessly can pull all the financial information, and in certain cases it can be an instant decision. We had people who got access to $20,000, and that meant anywhere from $1,000 or $2,000 for the broker. That happened literally overnight through the automated system. So for the business loan brokers, it gives them a lot of leverage, whether they want to run this on the side or do this full time. So it took a lot of money, obviously, to build a system like that, but it was definitely worth it, because now we can get in front of a lot more people. Our brokers are making a lot more money, and they're solving bigger problems. Like, for example, when I first started out, the average deal size was $20,000, $30,000. But right now, alternative lending has grown so much that one of our members funded a real estate expansion project for 200 million. That's the amount of funding, right? So 10 years ago, when I first started out, that would have been unheard of. Like at that level, there's no alternative lender. There was none back then. Now there is, because banks are getting more and more inefficient with their systems, because they're trying to navigate like an aircraft carrier. It's just too big for them to make any change. They might mean well, who knows, but they can't just make sudden changes. But alternative lending industry is run by private people, smaller companies, smaller lender network. They can make these changes and automations a lot faster.
Well, so just to touch on the efficiency point for our listeners, the three things they should have prepared: obviously a business checking account, their credit score available, and then they should have bank statements or itemized income statements, P&Ls, anything that makes it more available for them to understand what is coming or going into the business. Would you say that's sort of
absolutely,
a good
especially
summary?
if they want to get access to money fast? Like if it is an emergency situation and you're trying to get $45,000 like this week, trust me, that's what they're going to ask for. Like you don't need to have your P&L and all that stuff unless you don't have the bank statements. But right now, I mean, most people have online access to their banking account, right? You can literally pull PDFs out of that. And again, we have systems where the system can log into, with your permission, obviously, pull that information and make decisions. So you will need to have that, because, when sometimes we see people, we're like, do you have your credit score handy, or do you know what it is like? Can you give me a range? Because we can pull it. But if you tell me it's 700 and we pull it, it's like 400, that changes the lending criteria, right? So it's good to have some level of idea so there are no delays. Lenders will figure it out either way, but instead of getting the funding tomorrow, it might push it the next week, and it might not be convenient for the business owner, to have that delay.
Of course, the terms might change. Well, I love that you touched on the things that people should know before they start out working with you. What are some of the things you wish you had known before you started out in this industry?
Well, I wish I had a system where I can do the marketing and automation. I wish I had access to social media right now, and LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, right? So what I was in New York City, pulling on doors, cold calling and telemarketing people, which is for the most part a miserable existence when you think about it. Like you're walking out of the office and you dial 300 people and 2 people said yes. 298 people didn't want to have anything to do with you, and they hang up on you and they hate you, right? So it's not a fun experience, but I was a very ambitious person. I wanted to build business. but I knew that you can't replicate that. Like you can't, a person who's never done that, they're not sales oriented, you can train them. The other thing I wish I had access to is different funding options. When I started out, it was like one, maybe two funding options. So approvals were kind of here and there, right? So you would never know. Right now, we know that there's a 96% approval rate once people have those documentations. Whether they take the approval or not depends on the business owner, like the condition if they want to do that or not. So if I had access to that, I would have made a lot more money back then. But that's why it's important to get involved with an industry early on, then beyond the saturation point. Like what I mean by that is there are a lot of people who are getting their insurance licenses, but they're thrown into an environment that's extremely competitive. Same thing with the real estate. I guarantee you there are other real estates in your neighborhood. You're not the first one. With alternative lending, we haven't reached that level yet. And it's very far away for us to reach because again, the product we're offering is independent of the market. That's why we call it recession proof. When the economy is good, this approval rate from the big banks dropped down to 76%, which is still a major number. When the economy is bad, it goes up to 86%. So our situation still doesn't change. We can still provide funding. So it becomes a recession-proof business model for those who see the opportunity. And even if you're not trying to build $1 million business, you're trying to get yourself to 10, 15K per month, right? You can do that with a few customers. And usually the people around you, if they know that you have access to capital using other people's money, they will be attracted to what you're doing. And then it can be a referral network. So you don't really necessarily need this complicated marketing systems. We do provide it all because we have some people who want to build a brokerage shop. They want to scale. They want to get to $100,000, $200,000 per month. But for a lot of people who just kind of don't like what's going on, like in their world, financially speaking, and they're not super hopeful about how much that will change, a lot of times I tell people, like, you don't necessarily need to build a 50K per month business. How about we help you build a 5K, 10K business? Then you decide if you want to go beyond it, right? Because there's no get rich free scheme. You have to put in the work. Well, if we're going to put in the work either way, do you not want to put in through a business model that makes it easier for you to get money for other people and you make the same money as well, right? So that's our take on the whole, what people need to do and how, in what light they need to evaluate this opportunity.
Well, you've obviously put in the work. I'm wondering, though, if you can take us all the way back. Talk to me about your sort of earliest exposure to entrepreneurship. When did you sort of realize the bug had hit you? You know, you talked about knocking on doors, you talked about calling 300 people to accepting you. Your experience in New York sounds very similar to my dating experience in New York. But I'm wondering, talk to me about earliest memory of realizing I'm going to go into business. This is an integral part of who I am.
Yeah, the earliest memory I have, it was like a very accidental entrepreneurship experience. So I was 7 years old. I'm an immigrant. I came to the United States when I was 18. So I grew up in a country named Turkey, right? So back then, there are really no supermarkets. They're open like flea market type of places where you go do your grocery shopping. So I went there with my mom. And it's like scorching hot. Like it's like, it must have been like, I don't know, 90 degrees or something. Everyone is so sweaty and there's no bottled water, obviously. So I see all these people who are selling their groceries they're just thirsty, right? So I told my mom, how about I grab a pitcher and glass and come back and offer them water, right? And my mom was like, oh, you're so cute. Why don't you do that? And we were still like 5 minutes away from the flea market. I did that and I was kind of passing water around. Someone thought that I was selling water. I didn't know that was a thing, right? He gives me money. I'm like, what is this for? Oh, for water. I'm like, oh, wow, what a concept. Okay. Then I go move on to the next person. So I just did probably 7 trips back and forth from home, like with my pitcher and a little glass. Talk about hygiene, right? They're drinking off of the same glass, but there's no disposable cups or anything like that. So I made quite a bit of money. I'm like, what is this? There's something going on. My family's happy, obviously. But then I started school. I forgot about that whole experience. Like nothing came out of it until I was going through college, like with my family's pressure. I got in, I'm studying biology and chemistry. I'm not really liking it. So I'm a double major in biology and chemistry. I'm on the verge of graduating and I'm getting accepted to medical school, but I'm not enjoying my life. I need to be associated with people. I got to do more. And at that time, until I'm like 20, 25 years old, we're always having financial problems. Like it was like a plague that we always had, the burden that we just couldn't figure out how to make money as a family, my father, my mom, and myself too. So I graduated from college, gave my degree to my mom, and went back to flea market selling stuff. And I always questioned because, of course, it didn't make sense to my family. they were like, dude, you have a degree in all that stuff. You can literally go become a dentist or doctor or something. That was the entrepreneurial bug that I got back in the day. I noticed what it felt like. It felt like I defeated poverty, right? Although I didn't make that much money, I remember that feeling. So I wanted to get back to it all my life. And when I was selling jeans and sunglasses and even women's underwear, that was that feeling that was feeding me, right? I got so ambitious and no one liked what I was doing then. Then I started jumping into corporate jobs because I noticed that, well, I have this very thick accent. I came from United States and I don't have any marketable skills. I can work in a laboratory with my chemistry skills, but no one wants to pay the lab guy more than $15 an hour back then, right? So I got myself involved with sales organizations. So I climbed the corporate ladder, and by just chance, I ended up in credit card processing industry, then lending industry, working for a company. And I remember one time, the first time that I offered lending to a business, again, it was almost another accidental situation. A friend of mine talked about it. I asked the guy, hey, are you looking for funding? I can make an introduction. I don't know a lot about it, honestly, but this guy owns a funding company. And they were like, oh, we're literally looking for funding right now. I made the introduction. I removed myself out of it. And I got a call from the guy, the restaurant owner. It was like, hey man, like I have your check. You want to come by? I went back and I'm expecting a few $100s, right? But he handed me $4,000 from that transaction. That was the biggest amount of money I ever made until that point. I'm in my early 20s and I'm baffled. I call my mom and my wife. I'm like, what is this? Like there's something here again. It's another epiphany moment. Then I dug into the lending industry. I started making a lot of money from that point on once I understood that. And I worked with businesses and grew that until I got to a point of I got married. One day my wife was like, when are we going to have dinner together? Like you're not present, like you're working 80 hours a week and you're passionate about this, but we're married. Like, and that's when I noticed, I'm like, oh crap, like this is not going to go well. Yes. Now finally I'm not dealing with poverty, but my relationship is in ruins with my wife and she's been patient and supportive. That's when I noticed that I need to invest into systems, automations, and all of that. And as I started talking to people about it, more people were interested in that because they knew the product. They knew that I was representing the lending industry for such a long time. But all of a sudden, they've seen a shift in me. Like I was spending more time doing email marketing, paid advertising, organic advertising. So that's my journey of entrepreneurship from like 7-year-old until now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. Do you have a personal mantra or quote that you sort of live by or let guide you?
Definitely. One thing that helped me all this time is take imperfect action. I don't know who I heard it from. I could be Tony Robbins or someone else. But when you don't know what to do, you should start from anywhere, right? Especially this is for people who are in a tough situation. I've been in many financially tough situations and you feel helpless, right? That's the thing with poverty, man. Like it makes you feel helpless. It makes you feel like you're nobody, right? And I heard that it resonated so much because I felt like I don't know enough about this. I'm not even from this country. I'm not enough. And so you have this self-talk, almost like an imposter syndrome, that you doubt everything that you've done until that point. And that saying startled me pretty much. I mean, in my community, that's been used a lot. Take imperfect action. Doing something is better than just thinking about it. Just do it. You're going to fail, but at least you're going to feel like you've done something you haven't done yesterday, because success is accumulation of experiences over time, right? If you're waiting for the perfect moment to be the perfect person or to be the person who knows all about something before you do that, you'll never beat the person who's just doing it. That just doesn't exist. And that's just been my mantra, and I live by that.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I want to give you another opportunity. How can the audience connect with you? Your YouTube channel, LinkedIn, email, website? How can they reach you?
We're technically everywhere from Twitter to Instagram, but the best place that they can get the most benefit out of is the YouTube channel. Like, so there's a lot of free information. If you type in Oz Konar, OZ and KONAR, we have hundreds of videos there. People, if they wish, they can subscribe, but at least they expose themselves to a business model that they probably don't know about. That's all I care about at this point.
Amazing. My final question for you, your focus word for the remainder of 2023.
Focus word. So we had a meeting, inner circle meeting with our members, and one person was like, hey man, I'm so distracted. I'm just all over the place. I have this, I have that going on. I told them that you don't want to have your knowledge surpass your actions, right? So that's my focus word, because sometimes I feel like, this was not the best day, so I got to go back and study more and read more. It's just, again, if you take action on what you know, it ends up better than you going back and trying to figure things out. That's my take on focus. Like, never let your knowledge outpace your action, because you end up being someone who knows a lot about a lot of stuff, and nothing to show for. And that's not good, especially if you're an entrepreneurial person. I'm sure you can impress your friends, but then when it comes to like bank account stuff, action will get that done.
Oh, very cool. I'm gonna have to think about that quote for a while. Oz, I can't thank you enough for your time. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll definitely need to have you back on later in the year and hear how
It
things
was
are
a
going for
privilege.
you.
Great to
Well,
have you.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Enjoy the rest of the day in New Jersey, and thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.